Very good.
Good morning, everyone. It is 10:03. This is the meeting of the Town of Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency. Its Governance Committee is Wednesday, July 16th. The following board members are present: Mr. Callahan, Rucci, Pally, Mr. Rose, Ms. Scheit, Trotta, and Mr. Braun. The quorum is present. Once the Governance Committee meeting is concluded, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll run right into the regularly scheduled IDA meeting. So Lisa, I will turn it over to you. I said, what, before I do that, I forgot the minutes.
Now I'm prepared.
Our January 8th meeting have been sent to everyone. Can I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That was your turn.
Okay, now it's my turn. So as you're all aware, we have been working with Camoin to put together a study on housing, and it's been shared with everybody. It's very rich in information. There's a lot to it, and we thought probably the best way to go through everything was to have Camoin do a presentation to you guys, so that if you have questions, concerns, need clarity on things, we could just go through everything. So having said that, I'm going to turn it over to our reps at Camoin. John, do you want to kick it off? Is that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You all can hear me. Are you able
Yes.
to hear me? That's great. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if this works. You all able to see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Lisa, and thank you all for attending. As Lisa was saying, this presentation is capping off what is effectively 2 separate sets of analysis that Camoin Associates prepared for the Brookhaven IDA. There is a housing needs assessment, and then a separate report that it sounds like you all have had a chance to see, which is a financial analysis of the IDA's uniform tax exemption policy. And we will go over those sequentially. So like I say, draft editions are already out there for both of those studies. We hope to finalize those shortly. And this presentation covers both. The first is a review of Brookhaven's overall housing market, and that looks at the demographics, affordability, and projected needs. And then the second covers the findings. Hello? Okay.
Hi, Felix.
We all good?
Good morning. Sorry I'm late.
Just in
Okay.
time. We're just getting to the good stuff.
Good.
Yeah. And then the second item, the sensitivity analysis, looks at the efficacy of the IDA's UTEP program. There's a good deal of material, rich in material, I think Lisa said, and I agree. And we hope to get through a lot, so I will move along, but please provide questions, and there's a question period at the end of each segment. And of course, I also encourage your team to just spend time with each of the reports, because they go into much more depth than I'm able to in the time we have right here. So let's kick off with the housing needs analysis. This looks at general housing market, and we'll start with some underlying demographics, in particular recent population. Looking at the time frame 2010 to 2024, we see total population has gone up by 2,600 residents. That's a 0.5% increase, but there's a couple of really notable trends that show up. One is for the youngsters, those aged 19 and under. The number of those younger residents dropped over that 14-year period by 24,000, while at the same time, the number of seniors increased by more than 34,000. And for the seniors, that was a 59% increase. And as you'll also notice, the median age over that time frame jumped from 38 years to 41 and a half years. So what's behind that? Well, as so much in the last many decades, it's the baby boomers, and they're moving into the senior class, and as is in so many cases, the decisions they make in this case around housing heavily influences what happens in the overall market. Many seniors own their homes outright, or they're close to paying them off. And for many of them, the choice will be to age in place. But still, many seniors, maybe by choice or necessity, will at some point soon be relocating to smaller units requiring less upkeep and providing different sets of amenities, including healthcare in some cases. That's in reference to owners, but as an aside, seniors who are renters are in fact the most financially stressed cohort in the community, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Let's also look now at household formation. Well, population over that 14-year period that we were referencing was up 2,600, a 0.5% increase. The total number of households actually was up 3.5%, 5,800. And what could be causing that? Well, it has to do with the decline in the average household size. This is something that is a national trend, shrinking household size, but in Brookhaven, it just has much fuller expression. And when we look at this decomposition of the change in households over the last decade, we'll see some shifts that are related to that prior slide. Remember, we had the decline in the children and adolescents. Well, that's been reflected over the last decade in the decrease of households with 4 more people. And at the same time, that increase amongst seniors has pushed up the number of 1- and 2-person households. Now, the increase in household formation, of course, means increased demand for housing. And this kind of demographic shift is going to put more pressure, more call on smaller 1- and 2-bedroom units. That would be in multifamilies. But as I was mentioning earlier, a lot of seniors or empty nesters may prefer to be aging in place. So let's see what has happened with our housing stock. Over the last decade, we've seen an increase in Brookhaven of 2,600 units, but those gains have really been focused on the single family and the larger multifamily properties. There's been a real shift in the distribution by size class. There's been a significant decline in these smaller 2- to 9-unit properties, and that's what is referred to as the missing middle. You might have heard that expression. These are typically moderate density rentals, generally considered highly desirable. They provide rentals for low and moderate income households in areas that aren't really zoned for larger developments. They blend in well with the neighborhoods, contributing to walkable communities. They don't require a great deal of excess parking. But in these days of increasing cost of land and rising construction costs, some of those smaller properties are not really economic to be developing. When you throw in some increasing or higher interest rates, multifamily housing really needs to be built at scale to be profitable. And so that's how we see this rise in these larger units and kind of a drop in the availability of these more modest size units. We can look at next affordability. Some of you might be familiar with the concept of being cost burdened. Now, ideally, households are spending 30% less of their income on housing. When people start spending a greater share of their income on housing, that ends up cutting into their ability to pay for other things such as food and medical care. And what we find is that the percent of cost burdened households in Brookhaven is around 39%, with costs of housing exceeding 30% of their income. But if you look over at renters, that figure jumps to approaching 2/3, 62%. Owners a little more modest at 33%, but that's still not trivial. And what I'll also draw attention to is this other portion, those that are considered severely cost burdened. And this is a situation where half or more of a household's income is going towards the cost of housing.
Can I ask a question in regard to that chart? Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Is there a difference in demographics in those three categories based on age?
Well, that's a very good question. I was just going to say, indeed there is. And in fact, as you can imagine, those households facing the greatest degree of cost burden are at the ends. It's certainly young people starting out, right? Younger households, but it is also seniors. In particular, the households with the greatest degree of cost burden are those renters that are age 65 plus. So I think I mentioned something about that earlier. And in that case, 75%, 74%, 3/4 are cost burdened.
But those, I would assume then, that those would tend to be people who did not sell their house and then moved into a senior rental project development, is a better word. Because if they sold their house in the last couple of years at the exorbitant numbers people can get for their houses these days, one would assume they would have a significant amount of cash to go into a rental facility. But you're indicating that that's not completely correct.
Well, I will tell you, that's interesting. There's two elements. One, that portion of seniors that are cost burdened, certainly a good number of them likely never owned a house, right? But as you say, seniors who have cashed out and could be renting may indeed have a decent amount of wealth that wouldn't show up in this particular measure. So in a way, that could be overstating slightly the degree of financial stress amongst some of those older households. That's a really good point.
Because financial, looking at it from the perspective of individual income each year,
yes,
based on Social Security and pension, which would most likely be their two sources of income, may provide them being cost burdened unless you take into account the $700,000 in cash they just put in the bank because they sold their house after 30 years, which they bought for $100,000. We've all been through that, okay? And if you don't count the cash, I'm not arguing the numbers, then it gives you a different picture of what their cost burden ratio is.
Yes, that's an excellent point. I think that's true. Now, to the extent that people use that cash, they invest it, and it's throwing off an income stream that might be captured more. But you're right. Like I say, I think especially for seniors, there might be a little bit of an overstatement as to the financial stress.
To follow on to Mitch's point, Would it
Yes.
be possible for you to include in one of the two reports, a table of Brookhaven's population by income, the numbers of people in various income categories?
Yeah, I think that is in
If you could
this
point me at the page,
report.
I apologize for asking the question.
No problem.
If you
No
can't,
problem.
then please add it.
Okay. I
Thank
will
you.
verify it's in there, and if it is not, we will make sure that it is in the final edition.
I have a quick question for you also.
Yeah, please.
I noticed on the heading that this is a report based upon 2023 numbers.
Yes.
Do you anticipate a change in the ratios from 23 to 25?
Sold my house for $2 million.
That is a good question. I will say typically these ratios do not move very fast, just because it's large numbers of households. I don't have any speculation on what direction they might shift, though.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we've been looking at these percentages. Is there another question?
No, we're just
Just chit-chatting.
digging for the next level.
That's
Go
fine.
ahead.
That's fine. Yeah, we've been looking at these percentages, and percentages are interesting, but I think it's also kind of important to break out what does this mean in terms of actual numbers. In Brookhaven, there's currently 63,000 households that are cost burdened, and nearly 30,000 of those households are severely cost burdened. I will also say, however, that these percentages that we're looking at are not unusual for Long Island. Elsewhere in the on the island, we're seeing similar shares, though they are somewhat high compared to New York State and the US overall. So what are some of the factors behind some of these challenges with affordability? Well, we will look briefly at owner and renter costs over the last 10 years. Looking at rental rates, we see from 2014 to 2024, rental rates on average in Brookhaven have jumped from $1,800 per month up to $2,750 in 2024. Over 10 years, that's a 52% increase. And it is well in excess of cumulative inflation over that same time frame, which is close to like 25-30%. While that's strong, it is not as rapid as the increases that we've seen in for sale units. Median single family sales price has more than doubled over that same time frame, 2014 to 2024. That has increased the value of those homes for those households that are already owners and boosted their personal wealth. Conversely, though, those price increases have really pushed home ownership out of reach of many renters that would hope to buy. Those would-be renters, they can have a challenge affording some of those higher prices, but when we throw in the increased interest rates that we've seen over the last couple of years, it has decreased affordability a great deal due to the cost of financing. And while affordability is difficult, the outlook nevertheless still calls for an increase in the number of households going forward for Brookhaven. In our study, we looked at forecast household growth by income over the coming 5 years, and also estimated what types of removals we might be seeing. In particular, this is older dilapidated properties that are going out of use and raised and replaced. it's a modest share, but when you get a very large household base or stock of homes, it still adds up. So, but all told, we're looking at a need for around 2,300 new homes to be constructed over the coming 5 years in Brookhaven. Now, this first table, we're showing demand by AMI, area median income, which I assume most of you are familiar with that measure generated by HUD. And if you break down the
Yeah.
population, yes,
Is this home ownership?
this is need for new housing. So we
Generic.
look, I beg your pardon?
Rental and owners?
Yes, renter and owner combined. That's right. And if you look at mostly household formation over the coming 5 years, but also replacement of existing units that are removed over the coming, anticipated to be removed over the coming 5 years, we're looking at net new demand for around 2,300 new homes to be constructed over the coming 5 years.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, please.
The 2,300 homes built over the next 5 years, are you talking about single family homes or multi?
Single family, multifamily, both. This is total household growth. And like I say, demand or need for an additional 2,300 over the next 5 years, that works out to about 460 units a year. That is quite achievable for Brookhaven. A lot of communities are looking at much more significant shortfalls, and it can be difficult to reach the level of need projected. Like I say, 460 units per year over the last 10 years, 2013, 2023 timeframe. Average construction was around 400 units a year in Brookhaven. So it is a little bit of a stretch compared to what's happened over the last 10 years, but certainly achievable. And as I say, we develop these estimates by income level, and in this initial table, that looks at providing new housing for the households that are expected to be growing within each age or income cohort. But recall, we were looking at our cost burden measures. The need for housing is actually greatly centered around the lower income households. And work that we've done, and it shows up in the reports, shows that there's a highly significant supply gap for those households earning 50% of AMI or less. And in an effort to address some of that shortfall, we created what I'm referring to here as the aspirational development, which goes part way towards addressing that shortfall in units for those lower income households. The net number of households or new units targeted remains around the 2,300 mark, but there's a shift towards some of these lower income households.
When you look at this chart, is there a way to determine the need for rental units versus single family dwellings?
Yes, and we have that in our report. I do not have it on in this slide deck, but it is in the report, and I could pull that up. Let's see. Hold on just a moment. I will.
So I assume that the over 150% of AMI are dealing with the most affluent in the town of Brookhaven, and there's a need for what, 47 units?
Right, I guess that is kind of the fallout of that shift that I suggested of trying to address the needs of some of these lower income. In truth, right, what we're actually seeing is anticipated demand, say for these higher income around whatever, 500-600 units in that area. In truth, the market will be attending to those, and we wouldn't be seeing those low levels. I guess maybe a better way of thinking of this would be focusing on those lower levels. This is what we see as being an achievable way to address some of those housing shortages. But in fact, you're right. I think most likely market-oriented forces will be making sure that these higher income households are served. And in which case, perhaps a better way of looking at this would be to say, if you increase the total number of development over that 5-year time frame, you'd be able to make sure that you serve this higher income class while also addressing some of the needs of the lower income households. And let's see. I'm looking for that breakdown that we were just talking about.
Page 71.
71.
I'm sorry, what is that?
71, maybe.
On the in the
Housing
Bre-
needs assessment.
yeah. That is interesting. Come on, trying to move this over. There we go. Is this what you're referring to?
No,
Okay.
I don't know. Does that answer Felix's question?
No, this is the portion of the analysis that references the shortfall in housing for those lower income units.
So I think maybe the future needs new household growth.
What pick?
71.
71. Oh,
If it's in your presentation, I can certainly wait for the answer
Okay,
until you get
all
to the
right.
slide.
All
You don't
right.
have to go hunting for it now.
Thanks. Yeah, this is the 71 that I'm finding, and I apologize. I don't have that at hand, and maybe I should have built that into the slide deck. I apologize, but yes, it will be in the presentation. And once again, if it is not, I will make sure that it is.
I got a similar but different question, I think.
Oh, please.
Earlier you showed that the senior segment has gone up by 59% in Brookhaven.
Right. I think that's over that several year time frame.
14 years, I think.
Yep.
So over that, when you're looking at things in over the last 10 or 14 years,
Yes.
how have we as addressed those needs as far as what kind of an increase have we seen in the senior rental communities or the senior communities where people are purchasing them? If you go back 14 years, probably Leisure Village, which is here in Brookhaven Town, was the original and kind of it was kind of the only one for a long period of time. Since then, many other projects have come along. What kind of numbers do they show? Because as we as a board look at these projects, we
Yes.
look at, how can we help in both the moderate and affordable area
Right.
for seniors. So, how have we been able to address that? Have we done a decent job or not?
But that's a good question too. I will say that again, in that housing needs assessment, we do include an extensive listing of properties that have been developed over the last many years. Let's see.
I mean, I look, but there's a lot to it, so I could have missed it, but
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to waste time with it now, but if you could just, let us know where that is to help me.
Yes.
Great.
Let's see. Okay, I'm flipping through. This is an extensive report, and I am not seeing that. I am not
Yeah.
seeing that offhand either. I apologize. But we will reference that as well in our follow-up.
Thank you.
John, in the spirit of pointing out things that are already in the slide deck,
Yes, please.
my esteemed legal colleague to my left has pointed out that slide 30 contains a graph of household income distribution. So
You guys are so clever.
you already did that. Thank you.
Let's see. So this is getting into the next section that okay, well, let's finish this up. Are there any more questions on the housing profile, this portion of the presentation?
John, if there's no more questions, I just want to lay the groundwork just very
Yes.
quickly. So that presentation that we just got was the demographic look at Brookhaven.
Yes.
Those are the things to have in the back of your mind as we look at this next section, which is how our pilots and how they're currently
Yes.
set up, how they can be set up in the future can help to fill some of the gaps that were outlined in that last portion. So, I mean, we saw that there are need for apartments at certain for certain AMI levels. We saw that
Great.
certain demographics, there's gaps. We saw that certain demographics, there's not really that much of a need. I think Felix pointed out that there was 47 need for 47 houses, homes, whatever you want to phrase it, in that one section. So that's what this next portion is going to sort of lead us into, how we should consider running our pilots in the future.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that lead in. Yes. So now I'll be moving into the second portion of our presentation, which addresses that second portion of the study. In particular, the IDA provides significant financial support to qualifying developers of mixed income multifamily properties. And what we look at in this analysis, fostering housing development, we ask this question: how can the IDA's incentives be optimized to better serve the community's housing needs? And in the prior portion, we pointed out the significant need for additional housing going forward, especially amongst low and moderate income households. The IDA has its UTEP in place, and I will just tell you ahead of time, it's highly effective, and there could be room for improvement. Okay, so first of all, how are we going to go about answering this question of the efficacy of the IDA's incentives? Well, this is what we have done. Our approach has been to specify a typical multifamily project for Brookhaven. Then we developed a financial pro forma that allows us to evaluate the different elements of Brookhaven's UTEP policies. And once we get that in place, then we're able to adjust those parameters in the UTEP and look at what kind of an impact those have on the financial viability of a project. In particular, we look at the affordability requirements, and we look at the terms of the pilot offering. So after reviewing a large number of recent developments, we met with a number of developers, talked to them. We looked at a wide variety of data sources and effectively spec'd out a residential development property. What we've spec'd out, what I consider our prototypical development, is 120 units with 45 single bedroom units and 75 two-bedroom units. includes 180 parking spaces. The cost that we see here, the $43 million, that includes the cost of land and site work, construction costs, utility hookup, including sewer, and fees and taxes. When
Are the soft costs included in that 42?
absolutely, yes, everything is included. And it goes in the report, you'll see it goes into great detail about all of the elements and how we arrived at the different line items and the costs of those. In the end, for our 120 units, we're looking at about $333,000 per unit. Talking with builders, developers, they're typically targeting around $300,000 to $320,000 per unit. We're a hair over that, but I think it serves what we've spec'd out. I think is a very reasonable prototype development. Very interesting is that the UTEP support, which includes the waiving of sales tax and a portion of the mortgage recording tax, that is equal in our prototype to around $2.7 million. Now, this all hits during the construction phase, and that's equal to about a little more than 6% of a cost saving to a developer right off the bat, and it brings total cost down to $40 million. So obviously, significant savings provided by the tax policy, exemption policy there. If we move on to the income side, we examined prevailing rental rates from a wide variety of sources, including real estate data sources. We looked at apartment listings, and again, we were talking with developers. We focused on the rental rate per square foot, and for our prototype, we came up with what we consider to be reasonable or supportable market rates for a one bedroom of around $2,900 per month, for a two bedroom around $3,700 a month. Those are market rates. Now, in order to receive the UTEP benefits from the IDA, there's of course some criteria that must be met, and it's specifically around affordability. Remember, we were talking about the AMI, or area median income, before. That's some figures that are published by HUD, and in order to meet some of the requirements, affordability means for households at certain levels of income, that those households for affordable housing be charged no more than 30% of their income. So for example, a household, 1, 2, 3 person household with an income of around of 50% of AMI, the maximum affordable rent that could be charged to those households is $1,500 to $1,700 a month. For those households with income at 65% of AMI, they could afford a rental rate of around $1,900 to $2,200 a month. In order to qualify for the benefits from the IDA, 5% of units must be made affordable at this 50% AMI, 5% at the 65% AMI. And then there's an additional requirement, which is for the workforce housing. 10% of units must be made available to households with an income of around 120% of AMI. What those households could, based on local AMI, area median income, at 120% of AMI and taking 30% of that as being affordable, those households could afford rental rates of $3,300 to $4,200 a month. So there's something interesting going on here. There is this workforce requirement of 10% of units being made available at these price levels. But in truth, those levels are higher than what we're seeing for current market rate. And so that leads us to our first key finding, which is that for that 10% of households with a set aside of 120% of AMI, this policy is not actually saving those households any money. There can be a benefit to the extent that units are set aside, so households with this level of income kind of have some additional access to a property, but there's not actually a financial benefit because in the end, they'd just be paying the market rate.
A quick question for you.
Yes, please.
What is our AMI for the Brookhaven area?
I
13 something.
I have it, Felix, it depends on the family size and the percentage. So if you're saying, let's say the average is a family of 4, and 100 is the average. Hold on, I have it right here. For 2025, that's 164,900. Does that help you?
The $164,000 is the average medium income for a family of 4?
No, that's 100%.
Yeah, so that would be the AMI, is that 100% level.
For a family of 4, it's just shy of $165,000.
Okay.
Yeah, now, if you look at some of these tables, those figures change by the number of persons in the household, right? So it's a notably lower level, say for a single person household. When we're working up this analysis for our 1 and 2 bedroom units, we are assuming that they're primarily occupied by 1 to 3 persons per unit. And so these figures that I cite here are for households of 1 to 3 units, or 1 to 3 persons per household. Yes?
John, one other question. What goes into the numerator when you're calculating financial burden? I mean, we talk about household costs, but what's included in that?
It will include rents and utilities, and any additional fees along those lines. For homeowners, it will be your mortgage, but also your utilities as well. Any fees along those lines.
The folks at MIT who have developed cost factors for all, whatever it is, 3,000. The folks at MIT's Urban Institute have developed, you probably know about it, a cost of living estimate that is based not only on rent and property taxes and food costs and transportation costs and all of the stuff that goes into, and they have selected these elements after much study, all the stuff that goes into maintaining a family and a household. They've done those estimates for all 3,242 or whatever it is counties in the United States. So they have it at the county level, not at the town level. So there is that information available for Suffolk County as a whole.
It's useful information. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. It does sound useful.
John,
Yeah.
just let me go back to my question again. I'm looking at your slide that's up on the screen now.
Yeah.
And let's say that I fall into that $1,500 to $1,700 range.
Right.
Household incomes with 50% of AMI.
Yes.
I still, without having to go through a math problem, can't figure out how much I'm earning a year in order for me to qualify for that number. How do I do that?
John, why don't you take one person? Because in a
Yes.
1 bedroom, that's the normal person who's going in there. So why don't you take a 1 person household AMI, which I believe is 90-something thousand dollars.
One person at what level?
Just one person AMI, just.
100% of AMI.
100%.
For 2025, $115,450.
So therefore, the income level at a 50% of that would be $55,000.
Right, $55,000, right, and then to make it a,
Felix, $55,000 for households with income 50% of AMI.
yes. And then you take 30% of that and dedicate that
Right.
to housing and spread that amongst 12 months, and that's where we're getting these affordable rental rates.
Okay, that helps me understand the slide a little better. Thank you.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different measures referencing different percentages. So I know it can not always be super clear.
I always, John, I understand the context. Obviously, I never used percentages because nobody understands percentages. All I use is numbers because
The dollar value, I'm with you.
the answer to the first one is $55,000, and then they
Right.
change. But that's what people understand.
Right,
If you tell them it's 50% of this, they can't.
Mhm.
Not that they can't. It's beyond comprehension. So I always
Right.
use, here's the salary. This is
Right.
what $55,000. This is what a nurse makes at Brookhaven Hospital. This is what a teacher
Right.
makes in the South Country School District. That's how you, because those are the people, rightly, who are gonna take the 5% of the units that are affordable. Because
right,
they're designed for them in that regard.
yes.
People
Right,
need-
right. People have an idea of how much they make, but they really don't know where they fall on the spectrum of AMI.
And they have no clue what
percentage.
anybody else makes.
Right, right. That is absolutely true. And I know that in talking to real people, that's kind of the language that you need to be discussing. When it comes to housing policy, you know, and it goes all the way up to the feds, but it trickles down certainly. The focus ends up being based around these percentages of AMI. And so then in our analysis, well, our analysis is reflecting what's in the Brookhaven UTEP, right? Which is based around these AMI percentages.
I might suggest in the final report, next to 50% of AMI, you put a number.
Yeah, that's a great
Just put
idea.
the number in,
Mhm.
and wherever you use a percentage, put the
Makes
number
it much
in,
more
because then somebody
understandable
can
for the
understand what
layman.
they're reading. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't put the 50%, but what does that mean? $55,000? Put it in.
Right. Yeah, it is not always one number because as we were saying, it does tie to the size of the household. So if you have a one bedroom, most likely it's one or two persons in that household, which 1 and 2 persons are in different. The
Right.
dollar value for a particular AMI differs. It's not as clean as we would like, unfortunately, but I know what you're asking.
Might be helpful also to have a slide on here with a definition. AMI equals however much per one person, one bedroom rental. So when you're looking at that kind of a chart, you're gonna say, I'm one person, I only need a one bedroom. You know, I make $60,000 a year. Where do I fall on this chart?
Right.
Do I fall
Yes.
into a 1,500 to 1,700 or a 1,900 to 2,200?
My
Yes.
concern is that it changes every year. I think that chart's gonna be a little bit tough to follow. And I don't think that we should expect that this report's gonna be used by somebody who's trying to find out what they.
No,
sort
but
of-
it would be helpful for people like us that have to make decisions based
Yes.
on these types of numbers.
And it is gonna,
I
and it
agree.
is gonna be used by elected officials who are gonna read the report and say, oh, that's what it means, okay?
Yes.
Why are they doing
That's,
that?
and so
And
the
even if it
more,
defines, it's for one,
Correct.
one person or 5 people, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's a gauge.
And with this,
It's not
the one
abstract
for the
anymore.
year,
Absolutely. In the year.
yeah, and the year, so we know we're talking about
Again,
Mhm.
snapshot.
a different audience, if you're talking to,
Correct.
group of planners, they
And the
get.
trend
not
indicate
the
whether
only ones who do
this year is a trend that's up over the last 3 years, something. Okay,
Like so many things.
that's great.
Yeah, I suppose when you're talking about audience, I understand what you're saying. The audience, I think, intended audience for this report and this analysis is you all. The board who the UTEP policies are in fact written in the language of the percentages of AMI. And they try to reflect, and as we move forward, you'll see how when we talk about adjusting possible adjustments, kind of by necessity, for the analysis, we kind of need to stick with these elements. And we certainly do for our discussion. I mean, that's what the report is built around. But it's a point very well taken that these percentages, et cetera, are not especially intuitive. And I will make sure that in the report there is connections as to what exactly these different AMI figures mean in terms of dollar value for different households.
Yeah, I mean, anything that we can do to make it a little bit more streamlined and easier for decision makers to make decisions,
Yes,
the more fairer it will be for those who come in front of us asking for, for those types of benefits we offer.
right. I hear you. I will also say, developers, I think, think in these terms as well. Well, they're familiar with it, and I think for the most part comfortable with the AMI percentage of AMI figures. And they, when it comes to their particular project, they, absolutely need to convert those then to actual dollar values.
Okay.
Yes. If there's not another question at this moment, yeah, let's keep moving. So we were talking about the rental rates.
Yeah.
For our financial analysis, of course, we need to put in place a number of financial assumptions, and these are in the report, and they're based on a number of data sources that we draw from in terms of real estate information services, and again talking with developers. These are in the report. You can certainly review them and look at the discussion around the origin, but essentially they're the financing requirements along with what I'm looking at here, required return on investment. That is a discount rate based on a variety of real estate finance data sources and also discussions with developers. And the point of this figure, this 12.5%, when it comes to looking at a development and moving ahead with it, in the pro forma, developers are going to be looking for a particular level of anticipated return on investment, and kind of the prevailing rate at the time we did this workup is 12.5%. And so that's the target that we are evaluating our different development scenarios against. So we talked about construction costs, we talked about some financing, we talked about rental rates and revenue streams. It all comes together in this pro forma, which I know this is a a lot to have on the screen right here. But what this is our baseline prototype scenario, and it shows us our cash flow. In year 0, we see that $40 million cost of initial construction. And then as the property leases out, we see our income stream trending up over time. We see the anticipated real estate taxes starting off quite modest, and that is a result of the IDA tax exemption policy, or the pilot that's in place. And it provides a particular, well, it provides in the end a cash flow stream of income, which after financing, we start off with negative cash flow in the first year, but pretty quickly jump to a positive cash flow going out over time. There's a couple of measures that we can generate from all this material, in particular, the internal rate of return, or the modified IRR. Those are measuring 14 and 15.5%. Remember, our target IRR is 12.5%. So the way that we have structured our pro forma and the cash flow that we're getting off of it, and the project that we spec'd out, this project on paper pencils out to be entirely financially viable. These return figures are exceeding the target, and we've got a positive net present value. Let's look a little more closely at the effect of that pilot. Okay. For the project that we've spec'd out, at full valuation, our tax bills would run from year 1 to 15. The term, this is a 15-year pilot that I built into this, would run from $1 to $1.4 million. Thanks to the pilot, those payments are significantly reduced, hugely reduced in the near term, and then they ramp up over time. And that leads to this effective savings on the part of the owner or developer, which over the 15 years, that savings is equal to about $8.5 million, average benefit of $560,000. Or if you look at the net present value of this stream of savings, it's around $4.6 million. Okay, and I do focus on the net present value because at the time that a developer is looking towards a possible project, they are thinking in terms of what is the value of this stream of benefits to me today. And that's what drives the ability to do the financing. So we've seen a couple of pieces during the construction period on our $40 million project. Waiving the taxes during construction, we noticed was worth around $2.7 million. That's a 6% discount in total cost of construction. And then over the ongoing 15-year pilot period, there's a net present value of those benefits of around $4.6 million, right? So those are significant when it comes to looking at a potential development. They add up to $7.2 million. And like I say, this is kind of at the time the developer is making a decision. So the big question then is that money well spent? Or actually, it's not being spent. Is that level of support or foregone tax revenue, is it worthwhile in terms of the point of view of the IDA? And the way that we can answer that is we can look at the alternative. What is the counterexample? in that situation where we take the same project, same size, same cost, same revenue streams, all those things, but we turn off the IDA incentives, and we can do this with our financial model, right? What do we end up seeing? Remember, our target rate of return is 12.5%. Well, this is yielding now a rate of return of 3.5% and has a negative net present value. So the prototype, without those benefits, would not provide sufficient return on investment to receive private funding. That project would not go ahead, right? And it also leads to our next key finding. Without the IDA support, this project is not financially viable and would not be built. So I'm sure you hear that. I certainly heard it in my discussions with developers. I'm sure you have. It echoes what you always hear, that these projects would not be viable without the support of the IDA. And that is absolutely borne out in the financial analysis. Now that we have our baseline scenario in place, which I think was quite enlightening, that showing that in fact it's highly required for a developer to receive these benefits, we can now start looking at some alternative scenarios. What happens if we start adjusting some of the parameters around the UTEP agreements, in particular around the pilot? And the two kind of areas that we look at increasing the affordability requirement for the workforce housing. And I also look at adjustments to the terms of the pilot agreement. So here's our baseline scenario. Recall this: 80% of units at market rate, 10% of the workforce housing at 120% of AMI, and then 5% of units are dedicated to households with 65 and 50% of incomes at 50 and 65% of AMI. We saw in our first takeaway that there was actually not much financial benefit to these workforce households at 120% of AMI. Here's a question: what if we change that requirement to receive these benefits for that 10% of workforce housing to 100% or 80% of AMI? What happens to the financial viability of these projects? And what we find is that requiring a 10% share of units receiving the reserve for workforce housing, if we adjust that from 100%, 120% of AMI to 100 or 80% of AMI, the return on investment for those projects are still remaining above our 12.5% target rate for return on investment. And they're still throwing off a positive net present value. And so that leads to another key finding. Our project that we've spec'd out and the financial analysis that we do show that the project remains profitable even when the AMI threshold for workforce units is reduced to 80% of AMI. I hope you all are still with me. I know some of this gets pretty technical and in the weeds, but the implications are significant, and we can talk about it more. And of course, in the study, it goes into these in more detail, and then I can certainly discuss offline with you all questions you might have. I go on now to another alternative scenario. Recall our original was 80% market rate, 10% workforce, and 5 and 5 on the lower incomes, the affordable housing. We can increase the share of required workforce housing. So remember, we found that reducing this figure from 120% to 80%, we were still finding the project financially viable. How about if we increase the required share of units being made available at these lower prices? We can certainly ask that, but let's also keep in mind, if we're going to increase these shares, it has to come from somewhere, and it's coming from the market rate units. So we're reducing this from 80% down to 60 or 70% and increasing the workforce housing portion. What are the financial results when we run that through our model? Well, we increase the share of units reserved for workforce housing. It reduces our cash flow to the point where the project is no longer financially viable. Once again, we're shooting for a return on investment of 12.5%. In this case, when we increase that workforce share requirement, our net present value is dropping below zero, and our returns are falling short. So that's going to give us another key finding. When we reduce the threshold of workforce units to 80% of AMI, and we expand the portion of workforce units up from 10% to 20 or 30%, in this case, the project proves to not pencil out. It is not financially viable. So this is useful information we're getting. It is helping us define the boundaries of what possible policy adjustments might be. And it illustrates that there are bounds to the conditions that the IDA can require and still expect residential development to go ahead. We continue on some additional alternative scenarios here. What happens if we lengthen our pilot, right? There's a variety of levers that can be adjusted, and we're just asking questions. We're saying, what happens if? Once again, our baseline scenario was a 15-year pilot. We're going to take what we found that it does not pencil out to ask for a 20 to 30% proportion of units for workforce housing to be to come in priced at an 80% at a price level that's consistent with 80% of AMI. That's what we just saw, is that did not pencil out. But what if we change the term of the pilot and extend that term? Well, increasing the term of the pilot scenario, we lengthen the pilot, and that shifts some scenarios that were not previously financially viable to being financially viable. In particular, we said before 20% of workforce, a 20% requirement of workforce housing at 80% of AMI with a 15-year pilot. We were getting some returns on investment that fell short of our target, and we were getting some negative present value measures. If we extend that term to 20 years, those same conditions would allow these projects to, or this particular configuration of the project, to be financially viable. The rate of return increased, and the net present value turned positive in this instance. So here's a key finding. Extending the term of the pilot allows some untenable developments to become financially viable, even those with an increased share of workforce housing. So these are the alternatives that we explored in the study. And I know it's a lot. So let's just take a quick review of the overall findings. This top line is the baseline prototype. This reflects the current policies of the IDA. And we are seeing applications for projects to receive funding or to receive UTEP benefits. They're being granted, and those projects are being built. when we model out a project on our own, we're seeing, yes, there's a reason that they're going ahead. It's because they are currently financially viable. What we then explored was, well, what if we adjust one of the parameters around the requirements to lower the required income or required income level for the workforce housing? In our modeling, we found, yes, there's actually some wiggle room to change that element of the requirements in the UTEP and still maintain financial viability. We asked, well, what if we increase the percentage of units at these prices, and found no, those aren't going to be financially viable. But if we also increase the time frame of the pilot, then at least in this instance, with a reduced AMI requirement on the workforce and an increased share requirement for those units, yes, that's enough to flip this into positive net present value and a viable project. Actually, and there was an addendum that Lisa asked me to do, and I just included here. If we take this 20% workforce requirement at 80% of AMI and maintain a 15-year pilot, which is identical to what we have here, but we allow the full discount in the pilot to extend for the first 2 years and not just the first year, that is also sufficient to flip this particular configuration to financially viable. So what did we learn here by going through kind of these exercises and kind of playing around with our financial model? First and foremost, the IDA tax incentives are absolutely essential in making mixed income multi-family projects financially viable in Brookhaven. People are asking for them, they're receiving them, and they're going ahead and doing that building. They report over and over, we couldn't do it without the benefits. And what we found in this study is that's appears to absolutely be true. What we also found was that by adjusting the affordability threshold or by extending the terms of the pilot, this can expand the community benefits without compromising project feasibility.
There's a negative magic to the 20-year number.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that.
There's looking at the alternative of increasing the abatement in the first couple of years,
Yes,
leaving it at 15, but increasing the abatement in the first couple of years when
Yes.
there's no income coming from the project, et cetera, et cetera. 20%, 20 years has a negative magic for some of our taxing jurisdictions, particularly the school districts. And if we keep the 15-year term, but monkey around with what is available in the first couple of years,
yes,
that keeps the rate of return at a happy number for the developer without making some of our taxing jurisdictions line up at the doors and want to
beat you guys up.
apply,
Yeah.
hang us,
Yeah.
flaming torches to us or other kinds of, those kinds of responses.
More than they do now.
Even more than they do now.
Right. And I appreciate you pointing that out. And that is why actually the initial analysis worked through this portion, and this last scenario was added at Lisa's request for that very reason. She said that, yeah, that's very interesting, and it's not especially realistic. What else can we consider? And this is what she suggests is extending that initial term from 1 year to 2 years of the full abatement. And then, if you imagine that schedule that we showed of how the tax payments ramp up, it extends lower for an extra year, but then it ramps up just a little more sharply. And that little bit of a difference is able to shift this from what was close to passing here to one that does make the grade in this next iteration. And so we've identified some specific, we've been exploring this, and the model's able to spit out percentages and dollar values at whatever level of decimals you want. But the truth is, this is an exercise in just kind of getting a sense of where some of the pushes and pulls are around the UTEP policies. And in the end, the finding of the report is that it can really provide some guidance to how the IDA might reevaluate the requirements of its uniform tax exemption policy. So that concludes my comments and prepared material for this section of the presentation. I'm wondering if there's some questions at this point, either around what we've just looked at or the earlier section as well.
John, did you speak with the Long Island Housing Partnership when you were gathering information with regard to affordability?
I beg your pardon, could you ask that again?
Were you able to speak to the Long Island Housing Partnership when you were doing this? I know you spoke to a lot of different people.
I spoke primarily to developers. I will tell you, I did not connect with this Long Island partnership.
Housing Partnership is kind of the experts in this county, at least on Long Island, with regard to affordable housing and trying to address it. So that's
yes.
There.
But that's what they deal with is exclusively single family.
Well, yeah, but that's part of his
Yeah, but we're,
pitch. Yeah, but they don't just deal with single family.
No,
They deal with
they deal
multifamily
with multifamily to
communities
some
and
degree
the
just a
whole.
little bit.
on income
No, I think a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think in this day and age,
Not impressively more.
well, I'm not an expert in.
From
Long
the
Island
point of
Housing
view of
Partnership.
somebody who
However,
deals
we're paying him to do it, so I thought I'd ask him.
Not-for-profit that deals exclusively with affordable, Frank. Glad to enable you to.
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean,
Glad to make comparisons.
what I'm saying is, they have a handle on affordable housing in the county. Was it
Okay,
addressed in this report? That's all.
let me, did you talk to Community Development Long Island,
That's another one.
which is exclusively
going there.
devoted to affordable housing? Okay.
I did
Two-
not, and I will
more
tell you,
Two more
uh,
sources of information.
yeah,
Friends with the private developers,
Mhm.
then you've got a good picture. That's all.
Right. Right. So in fact, what we are looking at, these are projects that are built by developers in order to make money. Right. That is their goal, and that's kind of why they work to be in compliance with the benefits that are offered. An entirely separate portion, and also highly important, of the development venue is around strictly affordable housing. And when you get into strictly affordable housing, remember all these percentages of AMI. Those are typically dedicated 100% to households making as much as 120% of AMI, but generally 80% or less of area median income. And so those in other projects that we've worked on, those run into significant funding gaps. And that is also then why there's a wide variety of programs and financial programs, I guess, that are available to provide funding for development that's 100% affordable. So it's not apples and oranges, it's like apples and pears maybe. There's kind of the goal of developing housing. I mean, that's a community-wide goal. And for different portions of the community, there's kind of different channels that are able to serve those different portions. And certainly on the affordable side, there's low-income housing tax credit, which is huge. And then there's grants and such that organizations are able to get. On the commercial side, though, there is definitely private funding available for residential development. And in order to best serve the broader community, that's clearly where the IDA steps in and use your policies to channel portions of development to serve a broader community while still allowing those private developers to move ahead.
Other questions?
Which is the balance that we try to achieve.
Correct.
Exactly.
A suggestion that the addendum.
Yeah.
About increasing the term of 100% abatement be moved up from the addendum to the main body of this report.
Okay. What I would suggest also is everybody go back and look at, now that we've gone through this today, everybody go back and look at the two sections of the reports again, and fairly quickly come back to Lisa with any comments, which she can talk to people in Camoin, because we'd like to get this out pretty soon. Been working on it, I guess, going back to January.
Yes. Yeah, we've gone through several iterations. I think it has had a fair amount of review. It probably makes sense to, from my point of view, to try to get it finalized as soon as possible, so it can go into broadest distribution.
Correct.
John, I do have a question.
Please.
When you said you got your information primarily from the developers, and I understand why you would do that. Do you ever communicate with the Commissioner of Planning in our town to understand what's in the pipeline and how that may or may not affect your computations?
In some projects, we have worked with getting hold of planning pipeline. In this particular engagement, that wasn't one of the focuses. So in this particular one, no, we didn't. But in other engagements we have. I'm not sure if we have actually in Brookhaven.
When you did the warehouse.
Yes, when we did the warehouse, that's right. We absolutely did. I don't know if you all might recall a year or two ago, we did a study, and then we did a follow-up to that study, looking at, you all were aware of so many applications coming in. And I assume those have largely dried up, looking at some of the dynamics that I've been following in the market.
Like new zoning.
So I think for next steps, if nobody has other questions.
I just have one last question, Lisa.
Right.
The report certainly indicates what we can do to better make it available for developers to build these units, and the upshot of that is that we find more housing available for our residents, either who are in transition from their single-family houses to rentals units, or people who want to move into the town, which probably not as many as those who are making the transition. My question is, what is the impact? And you don't need to answer this now because I know that you're not prepared to, but it would be nice to know the impact of whatever changes that we would make to further the ability of a developer to realize profits and to build these units, what the impact on the various taxing districts, namely the residents of the town of Brookhaven, what it would have. Are
Yes.
those existing taxpayers going to be having to bear more of a burden of a tax increase in order to offset the benefits that we've been giving to, a select cohort of individuals?
right.
And that would balance our decision, at least it would for me anyway, balance my decision making.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Of course, the one of the biggest concerns on the part of broader community ends up being, we're foregoing these tax revenues. What we've seen today is that without these policies, the projects wouldn't be built in the first place. But when they do move ahead, yes, we're foregoing these tax revenues. And what does that mean in terms of, in particular, schools is what most people are concerned about. In truth, I haven't seen specific numbers for Brookhaven, but by and large, 1-bedroom apartments and even 2-bedroom apartments typically do not carry a lot of households with children, with school-age children. You mostly get 1 and 2 person households in those units, and which can, it's just kind of a portion of the calculations or the thinking. It's tempting to project this many units, this many more children. But in fact, typically that amount is much more diminished than people might expect.
So if there's no other questions, I know Fred asked you to look through the study, get any comments, any concerns to me as quickly as possible. And I will work with getting those over to John. And then our next steps are to have another governance committee meeting and to discuss potential changes to our uniform tax exemption policy. So that's kind of where this is leading to. So I know this was a lot to digest and think through. Anybody who wants to talk it over with me, I'm happy to talk about it. I've read it a number of times. So I think that's our next step. And if everybody thinks it's appropriate, we can have a governance committee meeting at our next board meeting, if you think that's a sufficient amount of time to sort of absorb everything and come up with plans.
That's fine.
Lisa, Fred said that we're gonna distribute this. Where does this report go once it's completed?
Once it's finalized, my intention is to put it on our website, but then I also thought, specifically the housing needs assessment portion should go to the supervisor, the town council. I'm gonna share it with, planning department, our housing and human services department.
But
And
we're
then-
talking about an internal distribution, not
Well,
not
on our
a, go
on our
ahead.
website also.
Okay,
And I was planning on discussing it with my colleagues at the other IDAs, but I wanted to see what we were doing to our UTEP before I really started having that conversation.
understood. Thank you.
Okay, there's nothing further. Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I just wanted to say to John, and John and I have had a number of conversations about this report. John, it was very well done. I want to thank you guys for doing it. People on Long Island have talked about these issues for many years without understanding them. And you have made it clearer and much more concise for them. So for that, we are very, very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yes, thank you. It's very interesting for our team to look into, and we're always happy to work with Brookhaven IDA.
And have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
2-minute break. Sure. Then we'll go. Item 43, the following board members are present. Callahan, Mr. Pally, the Rose, Ms. Scheit, Carter, Mr. Braun, via Zoom, Mr. Grucci. Forum is present. First order of business or minutes of June.
I'm
18th.
here, I'm here, Fred.
Yes, thank you. Minutes of our meeting of June 18th have been sent to everyone. My motion to accept.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Question? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Lisa?
Okay, so we have a pretty long agenda. I'm going to suggest that we take some things out of order so that we can allow some of our guests to leave. Peter, you have a whole bunch of stuff.
I just thought that for a while. Happy with other people.
We have 214 West Main owner LLC. See that Dan Deegan's in the audience also.
I'll bring him in later.
I don't know that we have to, let's just give it a second.
Okay.
This is a supplemental yesterday. Hold on. This is an application which was included in your packets. Yesterday, we had a supplemental public hearing. There were no comments. So what we have in front of us is a request to accept the application and then also pass the amended authorizing resolution, which is to change the ownership from Ferrandino and Sons Development, I think, to 214 W Main Owner LLC. So it's two items.
Howard, you have any comments?
Sorry?
Anything from your end?
No, I think we were anticipating this. We had been alerted to the fact that they were going to bring in partners and investors along the way. So this is what they're attempting to accomplish now.
Questions from the board? No?
No.
Take a motion to accept
Motion?
Second.
Accept the application.
and the resolution.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. I see that Daniel is in the Zoom, so we have the Lawrence Aviation Solar Farm project. There's an application. This is an application in your packet for a solar installation on the former Lawrence Aviation property. I will just bring to your attention, outlined in the cover letter and in the application, is a request for a pilot. Do you want to bring Daniel in?
Yes.
And I know that James,
Yeah.
ask Sarah or Matthew if they want to speak.
They're complementing each other. They're perfectly.
They want to be brought in.
Still negotiate.
Because we have representatives from the Suffolk County Land Bank that are
Are they on
also,
different
so we're gonna see if they want to.
I'm gonna bring. I can't.
That'd be a good idea.
Daniel, you're muted.
Not anymore. Thanks for having me on. Good morning.
So do you guys have any questions for Daniel on this application?
Hi, Sarah.
No, any questions on the application in general? Did you see the request for the pilot? They requested a zero pilot for 30 years. I just want to bring that to your attention.
And as I remember, the purchase pilot tower agreement is for 20 years, is that correct?
Yes, actually, Daniel, do you have, is that the difference between the request and the purchase power agreement because of the, do you have an option to extend? Is that?
Yeah, so the interconnection remains, even though the power purchase agreement under the feed-in tariff program ends after 20 years. Our financial model that justifies the purchase price actually goes for 30 years and beyond. This is also what the solar module manufacturer is basically warranting, goes beyond 20 years. And our financial model is based on these 30 years. We believe that the retail rate in Long Island will be quite higher than what we receive under the feed-in tariff, which is 12.8 cents. So the plan is to actually operate that solar facility at the Lawrence Aviation project for 30, maybe even 35 years.
You have an option to buy this property? You do not own it now, correct?
Excuse me, sir. Beg your pardon.
Do you own this property now, or is it under an option with the county land bank?
Yeah, so we end of 2024 we signed a sales and development agreement with the Suffolk County Land Bank. Current owner of the property, 36 acres, is currently the land bank.
To date, we have never done, to my knowledge, a zero pilot. Why would we want to start now?
Okay, so when we started participating in the public RFP from the Suffolk County Land Bank, we submitted a purchase price of $5 million. I believe you're all familiar with the Lawrence Aviation Site, the history of it, and that has been listed on the national priority list, also by the EPA. We started that process of getting this project delisted from the national priority list, working with EPA, and we are grateful for the support we received from Suffolk County Land Bank, Sarah Lansdale and her team. And in February this year, so after almost 2 years working with EPA and New York City, New York DEC, we were actually able to get Lawrence Aviation partially delisted from the national priority list, which also means a portion of the property still remains on the list. There's a groundwater contamination in the southwest corner. About 1/3 of the 36 acres are still contaminated and are still subject to water treatment facilities. Water monitoring is still ongoing over the next years. And this is about 1/3 of the site that we were actually envisioning to utilize for the solar facility, but cannot be done because of the activities that New York DC, New York still has there. This is one reason. The other reason why we are applying for that pilot is what's currently going on with the big beautiful bill. We have a situation that we now, within the next 12 months, we need to see this project start construction, and unfortunately that's not only our project that needs to go into construction, which means procurement needs to be done. We need all the permits that are necessary, and we are actually in a market where we see a significant increase in equipment costs due to that 12 months timeline that we are under. So the big beautiful bill has been enacted July 4th, which basically gives us until July 4th of next year, 2026, to get all that done. The other part of it is we have, back in the day, 2023, when we started the project, we have not envisioned import taxes on solar modules and other equipment, steel, for instance, which drives the project costs significantly up. We are still on a contaminated site. So as said before, we have water treatment facilities at the site. We have water monitoring wells, and we have contaminated ground, which does not allow us to trench, to work with what is called a pile-driven system. We have to work with ballast blocks not to penetrate the ground as well. So overall, the system costs go up. Another portion of that application is that we, if I share my screen real quick, I think it makes it easier. 1 second, please. Can you see the layout?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. So we have the blue and green are the solar panels that we are planning to install, and we have in the southwest corner of the property, that's what I mentioned before, 1/3 of the site cannot be utilized because of a plume. That's the groundwater contamination here. And instead, to make that project work, we have to install about 7.75 megawatt DC capacity, about 13,600 panels. And in order to make that work, we actually have to move in the north part, where we still have significant forest that needs to be removed, which is a bit contradicting to me, but we are now forced to do it as we cannot utilize the site as it was planned. So in the north portion of the property. We have to remove these trees, remove the stumps, work with grading, leveling, etc., to make that project work. I think those are the reasons why, at the end of the day, we are applying for a $0 pilot and asking for the help of the IDA to make this project work.
Farrell, where is the piece that hopefully will be sold to the MTA in relation to the picture that was just up there?
So
Daniel, can you put that back?
the question is, where's the MTA potential property?
Yes.
The answer is to the east.
Yeah, it's not showing here on the map. We are only showing the 36 acres that we were planning to utilize for solar installation. I think the MTA portion is further northeast, right, Sarah? Which is not shown here on the plan.
Is there a north arrow on this plan? I'm a little lost as to what direction we're talking about.
I think I can show the entire plan. 1 second, please.
Yeah.
Felix,
Yes,
north is up on that map.
north
Happy
is
to-
straight up.
Lisa, I'm happy to share my screen, which shows the overall concept, if that's helpful. Hold on
Thank
one
you.
sec. Yep. Do you see that?
It's not up on
No.
my screen yet.
Okay. Oh,
Maybe
now
now.
it's Hold on. Start the Snapchat.
okay.
Yeah,
You see that now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
So this is the portion. Do you see my cursor?
yeah.
This is the portion that Daniel is talking about right now. The whole property is roughly 125 acres in size. This is the portion Daniel's talking about. The portion of the property that we're in contract with MTA is this portion here. And last year we sold this portion of the property south of the Greenway to the town of Brookhaven for open space. It's roughly a third in use. I hope that's helpful to provide more of a context.
Mm-hmm.
400 then.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mhm.
Doesn't.
So we're doing it, so we're requesting a 0%
0 by 20 for 30 years.
for 30
Which is
years
our-
and 0 jobs created on a regular basis, although there's 30 to 40 construction jobs initially.
That's correct. And it produces power that we need. But we've never done it before. You know, if we use the term these days, it doesn't appear pencil out unless we give them everything. Do we want to do that?
if it's a former Superfund site, why was it a surprise that some of it remains contaminated?
No, it wasn't a surprise. The surprise was that even using the ballast systems, that DC wouldn't allow the solar to go over it, which could, if you ever needed to get to the plume area, could easily be accommodated. But the DC put, as usual, I might say, unrealistic roadblocks on this solar
When they
project.
use it?
From the town's standpoint, this is an overlay where solar is encouraged. Daniel, how many houses would this solar project be able to power?
Let me look up the math I did.
The cover letter, I feel like it was 1,500.
Yeah, 1,500 households. We are talking about 10.8 gigawatt of solar power per year, and that's the equivalent of about 1,500 households in Long Island.
So we're powering 1,500 households. It's something in our UTEP we want to encourage, the green energy. It's kind of something you have to decide because time is of the essence. And the county is very supportive of this, right, Sarah? And unfortunately, there's been a lot of extra costs thrown in here through no fault of the developer. DEC, it's changes in Washington DC, and this property right now, as everyone knows, has been off the roll street for many years. The taxes weren't paid even when it was on the rolls because of the contamination. And that's how it wound up in the land bank.
So perhaps,
Okay, that explains.
That explains.
Yeah.
Rich?
I just think, listen. For those of us who live in the surrounding community, okay, this property. Eyesore is a easy word for it, okay, for those of us who use the bike path. Look, you know, when the buildings used to be there, I used to say we're going past downtown Beirut. Cause that's what it looked like until till the buildings got up. This property is never gonna be used for any other purpose, ever, okay? Nobody's ever gonna build anything there. Whether you could say you could build something there is irrelevant, nothing is ever gonna be built there. This agreement, I think, is the best thing, not only for the town, and the county, but for the local community. It provides open space in the area that can be open space by the bike path. It provides a productive use for solar, which is probably the only productive use you can ever find for this property. And it hopefully at one point will provide a new yard for the Long Island Railroad and a new Port Jefferson station, hopefully one day.
Will we see?
So, right, so from my perspective as a member of the local community, I think this is a very, very important thing for this agency to do. We're helping do something that otherwise could not be done. And otherwise the property will lay fallow, if that's the correct term, and nothing will ever happen to it. At least this way, we're doing something constructive with the property. So I would support the resolution.
sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. Are you, I hear that you think we should accept this application.
Yeah.
Are you supporting the pilot at zero?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted
Yes.
to-
And the county is partnering in on
Yes.
this also because they are foregoing their right to collect any proceeds of the sale. So it's all that tax money that they reimbursed all the districts all those years, the county's foregoing. So everybody has a piece into it.
What do we do with the next project that comes in, whether it's a housing project?
I think you
or another
can,
Solar project or another project that doesn't, I'll use the term again, pencil out, without a significant deviation, whether it's a zero pilot or something significantly less than we normally
I
do.
think because this is a Superfund site and that's like some of the things we mention in our, sites we'd like to use, that makes this unique. We're not gonna have another one. And if we do, we might do a zero pilot on that too, on a brownfield or a Superfund site.
If we do this,
I think that's the big difference.
do we want to go to 30 years or go to 20 and let somebody else worry about it 20 years from now? Extending it.
listen, I think it's time for us to get the project done. Whether it's 20 years or 30 years, I mean, I would support the 30 years. I don't think it makes a difference to us. Most likely we won't be here, in that context, but I just think it's time for everybody to move this entire project forward, of which this is one piece. Yes, precedent is good to be set until it's not set. And I think there are enough extenuating factors between this project and anything else that comes along that we can very easily differentiate between the two. And we have total discretion in that context. So while I understand Fred's point and I'm not disagreeing with it, I just think it's time let's just do it. And that would be my position.
Let's just do it is always a good argument.
Let's just do it.
And it may not be,
Everybody-
although it may not be appropriate in some circumstances.
Not gonna build anything
I
else
don't
on
buy
it.
it.
It's definitely a unique situation with very unique.
Is this project not doable with a 20-year zero pilot?
Well, 0, what difference does it make, whether it's 20 or 30?
So
Because that,
the other thing is there was
well,
a
what's the
great
point then
deal
of
of
asking
demolition
for
costs here.
All right.
I don't know how much that cost, but to take these buildings down.
Right.
Which were eyesores for years.
Yeah.
So that was part of this,
know
that-
full
that's
well.
already
These
been
guys?
done.
These
Yeah.
guys did that? It's on their piece?
Did the county do it or did Sarah?
New York State did that.
New York State did it, but
Okay.
because
So there's
of
no
Right,
cost.
because
this whole deal. This
So it
is
was no
deal
cost to
with
these guys.
many pieces,
okay?
the
There's
town
no
open
cost to
space,
these
the
guys.
LIRR,
The,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
removal of the buildings was no cost to these guys.
but it's because of all these plans. It was a whole, Sarah's been working on this for years.
Mhm.
So, all these pieces had to come together.
There
I
seems,
think we're in for trouble if we say 30, people ask for 20 and that gives us trouble. If we say we're open to 30, we're asking for even more trouble. And if, as you say, it doesn't really matter to the guys who are doing the work, then let's go with 20.
Well, I think it's like Mitch said, I lived in Port Jeff. My mother-in-law used to work there. It was a super fun site. They're not gonna build anything else there. They're just gonna sit and sit and sit. I don't ride my bikes up there, but for the.
I just drive past it.
Well,
over
correct,
railroad.
but for the community, if they're gonna put solar that we've been putting up all over the place, out in the showroom. The town to the left over here, I'm parking garages at the Dennison building. It's gonna sit and do nothing, so what's the difference whether we do 20 or 30, like Mitch
Well,
said?
if there isn't any difference, then let's,
Oh, no, I meant for us, the developer. He stated his case about what his extra costs are and stuff.
Let's ask the developer.
Ask him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
that's a
mean,
good point you
he
just
won't be,
made.
we won't be here in 30 years.
why does it
No.
have to be rather?
No,
than
for us,
20?
it makes a significant difference. We are basing that project on financially on a 30-year term. So after year 20, if property taxes kick in, I'm not sure it's financially viable anymore. So we are purposely asking for 30 years because that's the financial model this project is based on.
there seems to be a lot of benefit that this project can bring to the community and to the town as a whole. But we are asking the taxing bases of our communities to bear an awful lot. And I'm not opposed to the request, except for the fact that as Fred has pointed out numerous times, this is a very unique request. I don't ever recall giving a zero pilot payment for any length of time, let alone 30 years. I'm not opposed to giving it for the 30 years, but it's really got to be, there's got to be a larger benefit than there is a cost to the project. And I have heard some of the benefits. Obviously, it's a solar farm, and there's a lot of benefit from getting solar energy versus petroleum based energy plants. But is there a litany of reasons why you need the 30 years with a zero tolerance, other than the fact that you have to remove some of the foresting and some of the other costs that you had said was part of the project? As far as the environmental issues go, well, I understand that there's a large cost to that. You had to know what those costs were going into the project, and you decided to move forward with the project. What I'd like to hear is the reasons why, in addition to what we already know, we should give a 30-year pilot, and perhaps from that we can tailor the reasons why we're giving this and use that as a platform for future, because I don't want to be in a situation where another project comes forward whether it's a residential project or a commercial or an industrial project, and they have an environmental issue and they've got to clear trees, and for that, we should give them no pilots for the next 15 years. I don't want to set that kind of a precedent. I think it's the wrong precedent to set.
Yeah.
But we need to, at least when I say we, I'm really referring to myself. I can't speak for the members
Yeah.
of my board.
Before
When-
Daniel answers, I'd just like to give you a few more, facts, Felix.
Sure.
We have done zero pilots on town-owned land
Yes, yes,
many times.
many times.
And we do that because, number one, we want to encourage the green energy. Number two, it's land that's not being taxed.
Yes.
So right now, that land is not being taxed because it,
Tax, yeah.
and when this, originally, this was thought to stay, by the developer to stay in the land bank and be a lease like they do with the town. And that would have been very easy to do a zero pilot. So that is not an option for the land bank. This needs to be sold. The LIRR needs to be sold. The town bought the open space piece. So this morphed into a little something different, but it is quasi county land and exempt land right now. So we're not taking anything away from the tax basis. So I just wanted to make that clear.
The only other point Lisa just pointed out to me is we're allowed, based on the UTEP, to go to 25 here. So whether we want to do that, we want to break that bubble and go to 30. Let's put a resolution on the table and see what happens.
Okay. So it's the resolution as the developer has
As the
requested.
developer has asked for.
Okay.
I'm confused as to if we decided to go to 20 or 25, how does that affect the project as opposed to the 30
Well, I
requested?
think Daniel's answer, but he could clarify.
Yeah, just clarify that if you could, Daniel.
No, we have just after the PPA or the feed-in tariff contract, it is actually with LIPA. After that ends, we have an additional 10 years of revenue in our financial model that justifies a purchase price of $5 million for that partially delisted Superfund site. It makes it very hard to finance a Superfund site. It comes with indemnification issues, liability issues, etc. Overall, Felix, if I may answer your question as well, what happened, what changed? You're correct. We were anticipating a contaminated ground. We were anticipating a ballast block system. We knew we cannot open the ground and work with a pile-driven system, or even on the medium voltage side, work with trenches for the wires. That was all costs that were anticipated. What we did not anticipate, at least I did not, was that Mr. Trump is going to be back in office last year, and that there will be such a thing as a big, beautiful bill, which basically pulls the plug on renewable energy incentives. So the investment tax credit basically goes away on July 4th, 2026. And with that comes significantly price increase on the equipment, because everybody is now under the same gun and needs to move forward with getting the construction done within the next 12 months. So those kind of circumstances we did not envision. And as said, if we don't get to a 30-year term on that, the project is barely able to make that $5 million purchase price. It's a conversation we had before. I know to reduce the purchase price for the land for these 36 acres is complicated. I understand that most likely Sarah would need to go into another RFP, and at the time we have another RFP where we maybe submit 4.5 million or 4 million or whatever it is. There will be no more incentive for solar. So we are in this predicament right now where we have to make a decision moving forward, or we don't, and there will not be most likely not be a solar farm anymore possible, at least not under the current administration.
Yeah, I got it. I understand.
Would you accept the application with the idea the board's going to go along with a 30-year zero pilot?
Somebody
So-
think,
For a second.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye, Daniel.
We should be announced.
Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you for having me on.
So I'm gonna take the next item out of order, and because of some technical difficulties, I'm calling their council and putting him on. Drew? Stop here. Hi, okay, you're on speaker, putting my phone kind of towards the middle of the,
Which one is this one for?
sorry, this is for Intercounty Appliances.
I have Matthew Cottrell, so I don't know.
Yeah, you can bring him in, thank you.
Somewhere?
Intercounty Appliance, the request is in your packets. This is a project that has been ours, and they are requesting a extension, a 1-year rollback, and then a 10-year extension to their pilot. Do you have any questions?
How long have they been on the books?
Over
Like-
10 years.
So the original pilot was 4?
The original pilot, so this is actually the last year of the original pilot.
Which 10 years, 15 years?
It was a 10-year pilot, and then we extended it, I think, another
Because they put
5.
an addition on their building.
So what, 15, and now they want another 10?
And somewhere along the line, the building was sold to an investment group. So the Intercounty Appliance people now, correct me if I'm wrong, are tenants in the building.
Mhm.
Which is, as you know, a very large building equivalent to a warehouse, because that's what it is.
Drew, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, it wasn't like, we're not at the end of, it wasn't 2 extensions. What happened was the building was built with the original pilot at a 250,000 square foot warehouse. And then it was under the traditional pilot for that construction. Then they put a 75,000 square foot addition, and the pilot was modified to then bump up from the then current assessment where we were to extend it an additional period of time. So it wasn't from a 0 pilot. It was the existing pilot, which is running out this year, was from a bumped up assessment, not from the ground up assessment. So they are up to about roughly, they've been paying, I think this last year is roughly $500,000, give or take, on that pilot. So yes, the building was sold. It was a sale lease back in 2018 and the rent under the lease was a triple net lease, and it was tied to a function of the sale price. So we're at the end of that pilot, and what the company is, because of that, their lease is also expiring with the owner this coming year. So coincidentally at the pilot end as well. So the new rent is supposed to be at market value, which is being currently negotiated. However, it's substantially more. It wasn't a targeted set price. It's substantially more than what they were paying, which makes the cost to operate the facility extraordinarily high, between paying the huge increase in purported new rents being negotiated versus a full assessment at the pilot. So what we were asking the agency to consider so that we could negotiate a better lease rent is to just roll it back 1 year, which was basically almost a year prior to full assessment, which is roughly $420,000, give or take. The dollars are in the documents, and then go forward from there, so it corresponds to a new lease term. So maybe if that better explains what we're asking for.
Hey, Drew, it's Fred. In your letter, you talked about a significant increase in the lease.
Yeah, probably 2 times what they're paying now.
But I would think that the tenant has some negotiating power here from the simple standpoint that if you look around Brookhaven, Islip, and the rest of Long Island, there are a lot of empty warehouses. I doubt very much that this landlord wants an empty warehouse. I think the county's got some leverage here in negotiating a much more favorable lease.
I would agree, Fred.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is they don't, apparently. entirely because the landlord is asking for 2.5 times what they were paying under the original lease. And from Intercounty's standpoint, you know, they have this another huge warehouse facility in New Jersey, and if the dollars don't work, whether it's through the IDA or through the landlord, you know, and Matt Koch is on the line, he can confirm this, you know, they don't need to be in Long Island, and I'm not saying that as a arrogant kind of statement. They just, you know, all their business is in the Northeast Corridor, good portion of their business in the Northeast Corridor, so they don't need to be here. I mean, they're operating the 325,000 square foot facility, you know, and you know, it's a co-op, so, you know, their members don't really care where they are, you know. So it's just a function of dollars. But to your point, unfortunately, because the lease was written to pay market, the market is certainly much higher than it was when they sold it, leased it back at a rent, which was a function of the sale price.
But
My understanding correctly that the request is to extend the pilot payment because the lease is expiring and the rent is going up?
It's going up to a point where it's just too expensive to operate at full assessment and at full market rent.
But the request is based upon the lease, correct? It's based upon the lease rental price. I mean, there's no other extending circumstances that are causing a financial strain on the tenant other than the fact that the lease has gone up 2.5 times.
It's just too expensive for them to operate in Brookhaven if they don't get some relief somewhere.
Right, is that a yes to my question?
Well, they're looking to the agency to, you know, cement their position here in Brookhaven over the next 10 years by rolling it back, you know, a small portion so that they can roll it forward, you know, and make it work financially. We're not asking to cut it in half or to do a new pilot, and you know that's you know, if we were coming to the agency for the first time, because you know we're just, you know, it was a short-term pilot at the time when it was redone, and you know now we're up to $500,000 in tax and rentals, which you know exceed well exceed what they could allocate to make it work to stay.
Drew, how many employees do they have?
About 80 roughly, give or take.
You go back to my point, the landlord doesn't want an empty warehouse. And if they go to Jersey,
you know,
that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's true.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of empty warehouses, so whatever they're using as a, you know, as their model, doesn't work because it's unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. They want, you know, they want what they want. It's a negotiation, and part of that.
We want what we want too.
With all those empty warehouses.
With all due respect, Counselor.
That has an empty warehouse, you know, but you know, there may be another one.
I'm curious, what are they paying and what is market?
Matt, I'll let you speak to that.
Sure. So our current lease, we're a little over 5,000 square foot, which is far below current market value. Market value is probably on our type of building, probably in the $12 to $14, maybe $15 range.
They haven't given you a specific number yet?
We started negotiations, and it's higher than we would hope, and it's higher than what we could get in New Jersey. And that's kind of the start of the discussion on this, was looking at the market and looking at what makes sense for our business long term. Also, obviously, we want to keep, you know, I want to keep my job here. We want to keep the jobs here in Brookhaven on Long Island.
How many employees?
80. And how many other of the empty warehouses on Long Island have you looked at?
We worked with a broker and specifically there's a couple right here in Brookhaven, right, that we've looked at, and those are mostly new construction, so the price of that is a little higher even.
Yeah, they're looking for $14 to $16 to $17 a foot at market.
And the vacant?
Yes, even though they're vacant, you know, most of the landlords who own those large facilities are PE firms, you know. I guess they're not mom pop. They
If
they
they
have the
can't
financial
afford
ability to
to-
hold out, you know, unfortunately. And I'm involved in a lot of them, so I can speak to the accuracy of my statement, you know, and I'm happens now with two other deals where, you know, they're talking, you know, 16 to 1650 a foot.
What do you wanna do, boys and girls?
You know, the increase is not, I mean, what we're asking for is not a significant amount, but the dollars, every dollar obviously counts when you're talking about operational costs.
So in
Would you
reality,
frame the ask? Could you re-ask? I kind of got lost in what the original request was for.
So we are at the last year, which is, well, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think I don't have the pilot agreement in front of me, but we're just asking to roll back the pilot to the 2023-24 number, which is approximately $120,000 less than it is for this full value year, and then go forward from there.
And this is,
That's a year.
Last year, they paid roughly $477,000. This year, they paid roughly $590,000. Full taxation, just for a point of reference, is roughly $619,000. And the request is to go back to that $477,000 number and make that the starting point and increase from there 2% per year for 10 years, which actually gets them back up to about $590,000.
and this is what year of the original pilot agreement?
Well,
It's
it
so,
was the original
Yeah,
pilot
that-
that's ended,
Right.
and then they built on, and so it extended because of that, but this is the last year of the pilot agreement with us. If next year, they would pay that, let's say, $619,000+ if they were no longer in our name.
So to Frank's point, we're subsidizing every landlord.
I could be inclined to do the rollback, but I'm a little reluctant to go forward for an additional 10 years beyond that.
So how long would you suggest?
But if you roll it back, you have to go forward at some point, you know, to bring it back up, you know.
Bring it back to the original 10 years. If we roll it back 2 years, that would be the equivalent of being 8 years into a 10-year benefit package. So there'd still be 2 more years that you can enjoy the benefit of the original grant.
So Felix, are you saying roll it back and give them back to $477,000 and then give them 2 years of a
Correct.
pilot?
Yes.
Yeah,
That would be a suggestion. I'm not, I'm not speaking for the board. I'm making a suggestion.
Question, you said there were 80 jobs. How many are full-time and how many are part-time?
The majority of those jobs are full-time, between office staff and also warehouse staff. About 30 office, about 50 warehouse,
Thank you.
including management.
Yeah, based upon the lease numbers, unfortunately, you know, I mean, 2 years just brings them back to where they are. It's basically because the new lease starts next year, so that doesn't really give them a lot of relief, unfortunately. I'm not saying it's not appreciated, but I'm just saying, you know, it just wouldn't work for them financially. You know, and presumably, and again, it's not a threat, I'm just saying financially, they have the ability, they have their facility in Burlington, New Jersey. It's not like one of these, we'll move to New Jersey kind of thing. I mean, they have a large, you know, facility in Burlington, New Jersey, which they're, you know, can accommodate a relocation. And if they can come to some agreement here in Long Island, unfortunately, that's their plan.
Drew, what if we defer this until you come back to us with a closer number after negotiating with the landlord?
In terms of what they want in terms of rent?
Yes.
Well, yeah, well, okay, but it's a function of this pilot as well, so.
I understand.
Yeah, the landlord's saying, you know, if you get X amount of dollars, we'll do, you know, we'll give you this, but more or less they're pretty firm at with the market numbers. I mean, I can get back to you and tell you what they want,
Well, just
you know.
make sure they understand how many vacant warehouses are on Long Island.
I understand, you know, and there are buyers and there are users. I think you have less, you have a lot of buyers right now, from my experience, you know, not as many renters, you know, as you pointed out, for these large facilities, but, you know, this landlord again is, you know, it's a private equity firm that just wants what they want.
Sure, I think the sense is that we want, you know, we'd like to help them.
Yeah.
We got 80 jobs here. We have a building that's full compared
And
to
they would
some others.
cement them, and
But
it would
I'd like-
cement them here for another 10 years, you know?
Well, we'll consider something. I'm not sure what this something is yet, but I'd like to know what, you know, where they stand with the landlord.
Okay,
All
I
right.
can get back to you on
I
that.
agree.
You can reserve, you know?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It beats it out.
Thank you both.
So
Thank you.
do we need a
Yep.
motion to table, Lisa?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Motion to table? So
Second.
move.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank
Take
you.
care, Drew.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. I looked around. What did I do with my phone?
There's a building right next door, but he says too busy. Money to,
Okay, so,
cause I asked Lisa that.
okay, so we have a, going out of order again.
Busy day.
Yes.
I know
That's good.
Tim is on. You want
My
me-
girls, I'll see you
what do
tomorrow.
got?
Hold on the board.
You ready? Okay, all right. Okay, so we've got a number of items. The first one, if we go back to the applications, is VTR BRTL Mount Sinai LLC. That is a request. It's in your packets for the HSRE, there's a lot of letters. HSRE Mount Sinai project.
Change of use.
To be purchased, but just, should I say for a read, we can keep going with letters. The real estate holding, the real estate to be purchased and the, operating will remain. So they're asking basically for an assignment and assumption of the pilot. And there's also, we have not only an application, but also a resolution, which for that project.
This is the Bristol in my backyard.
Yes,
In Mount Sinai,
Yes.
yes.
in my backyard. Closer to Fred than.
Some people literally.
Yeah, no, you can walk to Fred's house, I know. Yeah.
Somebody care to move it?
So move.
Second.
Questions for Peter?
So the motion is to accept the application and do the resolution.
Correct.
Any further, Peter? You're
No, I spent a lot of time on the cover letter for Mount Sinai, accordingly a lot less on the next one. It's the same information, but I think it pretty much lays out that the operator and the manager will continue to be related to B2K. And therefore there'll be no change really in the operations of the facility. As Lisa said, this is essentially a real estate play.
and it's being purchased by a real estate investment trust.
It is. Veritas is a large investment trust that concentrates much of its operations in the field of assisted living facilities and senior housing.
Are they doing that with all their properties? Are they doing that with all the properties
So
that they have?
No, they're doing it with other properties. There would be 3 other properties that they're gonna be doing it with in addition to these.
This one, okay. They're all up.
I should have introduced myself as Peter Curry,
Peter Curry.
Carol Fritz, 400 Arkansas Plaza.
I'm sorry, was there a motion? If
Yes.
not,
Yeah,
yeah.
both made and seconded.
Yeah.
all right,
All
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I recuse myself from
Yes,
this
sir.
vote, from both votes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item is BTR BRTL Holtzville LLC, which, just like the project that we just discussed, is a request for an assignment assumption to purchase the real estate for the EV Holtzville project.
Motion,
So moved.
second,
Second,
questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Once again, I recuse myself from that vote.
So noted.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is AA Senior Forum Propco LLC, and just like the last two, this is a request. Thank you, to buy the real estate for the Shy 3 project in Forum, also known as All American,
Not hamburgers.
not hamburgers.
it is busy tonight.
Yeah, he's got 2 more. But this is a different purchaser.
I don't remember, Peter, again, a real estate investment trust on this one, or not?
No, private investment.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
And-
just a real estate.
Yeah, and again, the operation and management stays the same.
Okay,
Motion,
so move.
second. Anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is C&K Development, LLC, Cordwood Estates. Thank you, yep, thank you. This is I'm sorry, on that last one, we we accepted the application and did the resolution.
Mhm.
Correct.
So this is an application. It's in your packets for a housing development. We have, council and also representative from the project here. Does anybody have, any questions? But I just want to make sure that I point out their request for their pilot. In this, they requested a 17-year pilot. This is Mike's, yeah.
Mike, want to say something? Or you gonna,
Or Tim, do you want to say anything?
He's muted.
Probably talking away. Tim, you're muted, just so you know.
He moved himself over. Well, I let him in and then.
Well, he's a good talker.
Oh, wait, now we got Tim.
Kind of like.
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to unmute myself. You can all hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this project has been very long in the coming. Represented the underlying property owners from back in 2010-ish. The property was zoned at the town board's own motion to PRC over 55. Despite that and numerous prior entities that had kicked the tires here, we were never able to get to a point where we had an actual developer come in based on the costs and the financing issues that were presented. Finally, Mike Kelly came in and has been able to successfully negotiate a proposed sale of the property. There was a site plan approval earlier this year. This is a senior housing complex. It was done on the town board's own motion, so it is a primary zone. It is adjacent to a shopping center, so that there will be cross access between the two properties so that people can walk to and from the shopping center. You should be aware
That shopping center was very downtrodden for many years. We were able to put in a Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, approximately, I'm going to say about 5 years ago, and the new Comswell Port Jefferson Station post office is being under construction for the old Rite Aid portion of that store, so that there's going to be a large benefit to the local community because you're adding 45 new um, shoppers to the area. We've done studies in the past where it showed that a residential unit produces approximately $30,000 in income to like a 5-mile radius of the site. That's another $1.2 million in added benefits to the community as a result of this project. The project itself is over $20 million. The other thing that I think is very important to consider here is going to be the rents. We looked at Ferrandino and Sons, which is where we modeled our pilot on, and I looked at both their study and the Camoin study with regard to the same. Ferrandino had a large percentage of their units at over market rate, well over market rate, in some cases over 30% market rate. Here, our rents are going to be at or below market rate. We have the 81 and 120 affordable rates for the 8 units pursuant to our site plan approval. We understand there'll be a requirement for 2 additional units to meet the 20% threshold for the IDA. In this case, we do not anticipate our market rate rents to be greatly above the workforce rents. We anticipate our rents for the 1 and 2 bedroom units to be anywhere from $2,900 to $3,500, which would put us, marginally above the 120 threshold. So we would be filling a need for the community for the stated purpose of providing affordable housing and new housing for the community. Additionally, as a senior rental, there'll be no school kids added to the school district, so there's no cost incurred by the school district itself. Over $8 million will be spent on the build out, another $3 million on the site. And as the board probably has heard before, the financing for these projects is incumbent upon our ability to obtain a pilot. So we wouldn't be able to finance this project out without having this pilot granted. Without the financing, it cannot be built. So we would ask that the board accept the application today, and we would continue on with our processing of the same. Thank you.
Tim, who's going to finance this?
Mike, who's going to be your finance?
Got 2 groups looking at it right now, just competing to try to get the best term sheet. 2 local groups.
Questions?
So at the moment, we're just accepting the application?
Correct.
That's all we have today.
Correct.
But the request for the 17-year pilot, I won't be able to move ahead if.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it. Okay.
Motion? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I recuse myself. Because of my relationship with Tim.
Okay.
Even though we can't see him.
I need somebody to come back.
I appreciate Marty recusing himself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're gonna do the
Thank you.
study, right?
Well,
Yes.
What?
I just want to make sure I understand because I will, if you guys just accepted the application, my next steps are to move ahead with a pilot and a public hearing, obviously not right away, but it takes a little while. But I'm moving ahead with a 17-year pilot. I just wanted to make sure that we're clear.
That's correct.
That's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank
See you,
you.
Tim.
All
See
right,
you,
bye-bye.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a request from Hawkins Avenue Development RHP2 LLC. So they have requested that the agency consent to and execute a permanent financing. Any questions? Peters?
I don't remember the deal. Just send me.
Could you?
I'm sorry, it's,
Phase two.
I'm sorry, wrong,
Thank you.
station.
Oh, Ron Cohn, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Station Yard.
Thank you, I get lost. in
I'm
that.
sorry,
It's phase 2A of the Tritech.
Station Yard.
yeah,
First station.
Fine.
yeah.
Thank you.
Don't move.
All the letters don't make sense to you?
Alphabet soup.
Yeah.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Has been fun.
Wait, hold on, you don't wanna stay for Ron Cub Phase 2A, the subtenant for Leaf is changing their name?
They changed it. Barry and I already
Wait.
discussed it. Why the hell are they doing that?
Well, since we just teed it up and Peter hasn't left yet,
An emotion.
yeah,
Oh,
we need a
so
motion.
moved.
Second,
Yeah, I read that. There you go, Peter.
All those in favor?
Did you bring golf clubs?
And I promise not to use any of the information I've learned today with regard to any solar application. Submitted in the future. Have a good day.
There won't
Thank
be
you.
any. That's what you learned.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is DNF Allegria South. We received an updated application. We received a request for a new letter of support. So I guess we should accept the updated application for this project. This is 100% affordable, proposed 100% affordable project in Belport. Yes.
Frank Specchio.
Yeah, this was the one where they possibly were gonna put a supermarket. There will be a bank there.
oh,
oh,
Right. On Montauk.
so, yeah, it's
Yeah, north of
on,
Montauk Highway.
off of Atlantic Avenue, I believe. Yes?
100% affordable.
They updated their information
Thank-
because they'd like a
okay.
new
That's fine.
letter of
That's fine.
support.
Okay,
Regarding the pilot.
Yeah.
very good.
It was a very detailed letter. With all the
Very
pieces they put
detailed.
Together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have a
Motion.
motion?
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and the last piece, you're stepping away from the table for this. So-
Sitting on the other side.
I don't think it's that, all right, very sweet. KCE, the proposed solar installation, in Shoreham, thank you, I was gonna say Setauket, I was like, I got the right letter, but not the right. They have asked for,
Battery.
what did I say?
Solar.
Battery, yeah.
I got
That's
the
solar
right,
on
oh,
the
it's the
brain.
right
Is
concept,
that
thank you.
coming? Is that coming?
Yes.
Battery project, it's not solar in Setauket, it's batteries in Shoreham. They asked for an extension of their final authorizing resolution to September 18th of 2025. This is just, we did that, that resolution so that projects would stay in touch and keep things moving along. So this is just a function of that. They need a little bit more time to get to their closing.
So moved.
second,
Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I think that's everything.
we did 4 weeks.
Did we just-
Yeah, that was.
We
that
made
was
a
the
motion,
change
didn't
from,
we?
Bethpage.
Clover.
That was the one we kind of giggled at,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yes, we did it.
I don't know if we're doing it. I think everybody's thinking, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
been here 3 years.
There's nothing further.
I know, but I couldn't.
Adjourn.
Are you sure?
Fred, Fred,
Yes.
may I make a suggestion based upon that applicant that requested a 30-year pilot, and we, I think, approved that. Would it make sense to amend or change or add to our UTAP a set of criteria that would qualify for such a, such a large request? And I think I'm a little frightened that we're gonna start seeing many more of these types of requests coming in for zero pilot payments for extended periods of time based on the fact that we've already done it.
So, Felix, our UTEP allows for up to 25 years. So that's one piece, and we're about I think, going to redo our UTEP. So if that's something that you want to consider, we certainly can. I don't think we've ever got a request like this before. So I think it probably is a little bit unusual, but we can ask council what they're seeing around the state if 30 years is sort of becoming the norm with energy projects, which Annette tells me this is the last one we're ever going to see.
The length of time is important, but not, to me, not as important as the request for zero pilot payments. I mean, this one was unique in the sense that there is a public benefit that's going to inure from this project. You know, I don't want someone coming in and, building all sorts of housing projects and calling that a public benefit and ask for a 30-year pilot relief because we've already done it already.
We wouldn't do it, right?
I think also, once all the ramifications of the big beautiful tax bill are finalized, a lot of the benefits and the tax benefits for some of these projects are gonna disappear. We may be asked to put up a coal factory.
This is a lot of coal here.
Yeah.
Just a thought that maybe we want to be proactive rather than reactive on future requests.
Well, maybe council could address it and then we could talk about it when we review the.
Agreed.
Yeah, but any of those suggestions for the UTEP are always appreciated, because if we're going to open it up and go through the process, I'd like to get as many things as we can.
And we had discussed as part of the UTEP, the warehouse discussion
Yep.
about tenant
I have all kinds of notes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And the issues that we talked about in our interesting discussion with Camoin raise an issue for what the salaries are going to be for employees of the projects that we approve. Many of those salaries are below AMI, significantly below AMI.
Well, and a lot of the rentals are,
The renters or the employees?
No, the employees of other projects that we approve,
that will probably eventually need a place to
that will
live.
need
and
a
end
place
up
to
in
live
the-
and
Yeah.
end up getting these. Maybe. Depending on how far below AMI we are willing to go. We are realistically able to go.
Lost track. We have a motion to adjourn.
Oh, so moved.
Second. Unless you want to stay for a while.
No.
I think you had enough.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Gotta go, gotta go. Gotta go, gotta go.